SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Jeep Thrill Seekers, listen up. Save $11,000 on select 2025 Jeeps at Rainbow Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Macomb. Conquer trails or streets in style for less. Hurry to Rainbow Chrysler Dodge Jeep in Macomb because these deals won't last. Get yours now.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Everyone, and welcome to MidDays SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this Hump Day of July 4th week. So, the big holiday weekend set for this Friday. So, we finally got one of those situations, right? It comes around every now and then where a national holiday falls on a Friday or a Monday, making for a nice long weekend. We got it, baby. We got it. Now, some people in this country, the loons are unbelievable, aren't they? I'm looking for a version of a clip that does not have the expletives, that we're not able to air unless we want to lose our jobs and our FCC license. But their protest, I know you're shocked at this, scheduled for Friday. Activists are claiming that July 4th is canceled. I hope, one of them said, I hope you feel good about seeing the fireworks go off and saluting the flag. Yeah, I do. How about you? I feel pretty good about that. I'm dang proud, honored, blessed, all the above, to be an American. You don't like it? Get the hell out of here. Good grief. But there's one of these, you've seen it, one of these, I hesitate to describe the sex. I think it's a woman, but I'm not sure. Now, I'm not talking about how they identify. I mean how they are biologically. This is one that, again, you catch me, unfortunately, profiling because it's the purple hair and the stupid dress and the goofy just look on their face and all that stuff. And the big, as you like to say, the big green glasses. This is the one that's like crying about July 4th. There's no crying on July 4th, as the great Tom Hanks would say. Said it's canceled. It's effing canceled, by the way. Why do they always have to use F-bombs? Like 14 times over 2 minutes.
Because much like their view of the world and their understanding of politics, their perpetually 13-year-old brain thinks it makes them look cool.
That's exactly right. She says it's canceled. It's effing canceled. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, because she's the princess ruler of the world.
That's right.
Empress of the universe, and everything revolves around her.
Sadly.
Or will we get in trouble for assuming her, or is it him?
That's exactly
Maybe we should
right.
just call them all crazy and call it a day.
It works for me. I couldn't find a bleeped out version. You and I are going to have to invest in some tools or talk to management here about that.
I mean, I can edit any audio. It's just, do I really want to waste 10, 15 minutes editing audio of someone who's obviously brain damaged or just ignorant of reality?
All the above.
They don't deserve the airtime.
Oh, my gosh. That's true.
They barely deserve oxygen.
That's so true. Well, so they're canceling. Oh, my gosh. July 4th. Still mad. Still aggrieved. Now, I tell you what. If you want to see some problems for Democrats, in my view, this could be problematic for them because they won't denounce what I'm about to tell you. There are some protests scheduled, you've seen this, on the 4th, where the protesters intend to be hoisting and waving like Mexican flags and Palestinian flags, anything but the American flag. That's their protest. We're not. You think any Democrats will condemn or criticize that action?
No.
No. Even on July 4th. Even on
Maybe
July
Fetterman.
4th. Yeah, you're right. He might.
Because he likes the attention.
Yeah, completely. 100%. You're right. But that's what's going on, scheduled for July 4th. We're scheduled to have, by the way, Congressman Mike Ezell at 10:20, but you know the big, beautiful bill is in the House of Representatives, and so it may be a conflict. We're hanging on for that. Not sure if it's going to necessitate him being on the floor to cast a vote. We certainly appreciate and understand that. We hope he can join us. And we've also got Captain Criss Turnipseed, Director of the Mississippi Highway Patrol Public Affairs Division. Of course, we've got the busy holiday travel weekend upon us, and he'll give us an update on the enforcement period. Congressman Michael Guest, how about that? 2 of Mississippi's 4 members of the House of Representatives on the same day, hopefully. Michael Guest on at 12:05. We'll get the same reaction from him about the big, beautiful bill, which did while we were on the air yesterday. Passed the Senate. Now, there's some 12 holdouts in the House for various reasons. You were telling me some of it has to do with some firearms issues, right?
Yeah, the original bill from the House removed short-barreled rifles, short-barrel shotguns, the all other weapons category, and suppressors from, I think suppressors are just removed the tax. I don't think they actually
just the tax. That's right. Can only deal with budget.
They removed them from having to jump through all the hoops and get a trust and pay an extra tax. Because if it's a tax, then that's in the budget and appropriations conversation. Therefore, it can be a part of the reconciliation process. But the parliamentarian got spooked and gutted it.
Yep.
Even though it was dealing with a tax. And the House is, or some members of the House are going, wait, just put it back.
So that's a problem. And there are others. The Freedom Caucus, Representative Chip Roy, he's one of those guys. The name escapes me, the guy from Maryland, which you wouldn't expect to see such a strong conservative representative from such a deep blue state. He's part of that group as well. Both of these individuals, among others, have said that the bill's a no-go because it doesn't cut spending enough. It doesn't really address their concerns from a fiscal perspective. Of course, you know the chief seeker of attention in the House. And it's a close tie between Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and John Fetterman and a couple of others. But he's a nay from the get-go. Of course, the president has said he's going to primary him, and Elon Musk says he's going to contribute to him. Like I said, I think Musk is off the Christmas card list. This was so predictable. I never thought they were going to reconcile. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. In fact, I'd say they're getting split further apart.
You notice the one thing about Trump and Elon's disagreement?
What's that?
You haven't had crazy people in MAGA hats burning down Tesla dealerships.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
You haven't had dudes in MAGA hats keying Teslas.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's only really one party in this country full of brain damaged, brain dead, and idiotic people. It's everybody that votes for the politicians with a D by their name.
Well, and then the lying. is out of control as well, coming from the left. I just sent you a little clip that has some of what the Democrat minority leader in the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, who would be your next speaker should the Democrats assume control of the House. You got the clip here for us?
Who currently get health care coverage from the Affordable Care Act, losing access to their health care. It's the largest assault on nutritional assistance in American history. It's the largest transfer of wealth from everyday Americans to billionaires in American history. Shame on Republicans for trying to jam this bill down the throats of the American people.
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry, I'm not listening to a single word a Democrat says after they say shame, since they have killed the concept of shame on their side for over a decade.
There ain't no doubt about it. We've just been notified Congressman Ezell is on the floor. He's not able to join us in the next segment. Maybe we can get him on later today or perhaps tomorrow. But we're stepping aside for a break. On the other side of the break, folks, we're going to play a little clip from the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York, the Democrat socialist, Zoran Mamdani. And I've got a special message for him on a shirt I'm about to unveil. Tune in, get us on video if you can. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
You and me, baby, no one else we could trust. We'll say nothing to no one, know how we bust and never crack a smile or flinch or cry for nobody.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. All right, Rhino, would you please cue the clip from the Democratic Socialist nominee for mayor of New York City? That would be Zoran Mamdani.
What the purpose is about this entire project, it's not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, at every which opportunity that they're given. We have to continue to elect more socialists. And we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production.
Seizing the means of production. Well, gee, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Who conceived of such a practice?
That would be the moocher-in-chief himself.
Who's that?
Karl Marx.
Please describe for the audience my shirt here.
It's a bright blue T-shirt, specific blue. It looks like Democrat blue, which is the irony in it. And at the top of the picture it says, "Get in, loser." And then there's a picture of a convertible with Karl Marx sitting in the driver's seat of the convertible. And underneath the picture, the bottom caption of the meme says, "We're seizing the means of production." So all in total, you have Karl Marx in a convertible that says, "Get in, loser. We're seizing the means of production."
Because seizing the means of production is a loser. And this dude that is poised to be the next mayor of New York, he personifies loser. And you've seen, of course, he comes from an affluent family on the east side. And something has persuaded him along the line to be a left-wing lunatic Marxist. Get in, loser. We're seizing the means of production. By the way, did you hear him talk about whether it's BDS? You heard that? Just so you know, folks, that's not like some perverse sexual practice.
No, you got to add the M for that.
That's right. It stands for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Who comes up with this crap?
The same people that want you to believe that a dude can become pregnant.
That's exactly right.
The same people that want you to believe that Joe Biden was all there and doing cartwheels behind the scenes and solving calculus problems.
That's true.
The same people who want you to believe that mainstream media didn't know, didn't have the foggiest idea that Biden was incapacitated, even though they had to submit their questions and they saw him more than just about anybody except for his evil family. And I call them evil because, well, what would you call it if you took advantage of an elderly person for power and political gain?
Yep, because that's exactly what it was. For personal power and political gain and edification. The BDS, by the way, no surprise, this originated in Palestine. And, of course, boycotts, divestments. What are they talking about, divestments? Divest what?
You can't have any investments in any company that has any interest in Israel.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Everything's about, they're hyper-focused on Israel, consumed, obsessed with it.
Because they hate Jews.
They do. And you know why? Because Israel, relative to Palestine, as overall, as a society, as a nation, is wealthy. Because they work their rears off. They produce lots of stuff the world consumes. They've got an incredible military, maybe the best trained in the world next to this one. And that only this one because we got a president and a secretary of defense that says, you know what, instead of privilege walks, we're going to learn how to fire missiles and stuff like that.
Which led to them making the prototypical big guy, bad guy handgun for movies.
That's
Desert
true.
Eagle.
That's so true.
Completely impractical as a handgun, but in the movies, it looks cool.
So just so you know, the Democrat Socialist of America, a party to which Mr. Mondani is a member, of which they have embraced BDS as a strategy to express solidarity with the struggles of Palestine. Good grief. Guarantee you on July 4th, sadly, you're going to see Palestinian flags, Mexican flags, who knows what else. Lots of these losers protesting, hoisting any flag but Old Glory.
I would put a caveat on that.
All right.
You'll see those flags if you live in a Democrat-run state or city and you go to the protests. If you are an average, normal, sane American, you'll likely be hanging out with friends or out by the pool or grilling or at the lake or doing anything else. And I don't think you'll see very many Palestinian flags at those events.
No doubt about it.
Which is kind of silly that they're picking the 4th for this protest. I guess it's to head off all the people that say they're worthless and don't have any jobs, so they can point to it. Well, we chose the holiday. We're all off. Still doesn't prove they have any jobs.
I believe that
outside of protesting,
if Republicans are smart here, they could effectively use this against them because in almost anything that comes up that is reasonable, from a policy perspective or any sort of censure, they just always lean into this sort of garbage that I think is unpopular overall with the American people, even within the ranks of their party. It's not just unpopular with Republicans. I think they're losing. And you've seen some of the Democrat pundits, you know, some of the strategists and so forth. They're upset about it. And yesterday, I don't remember the young guy on CNN that's always on there presenting polls outcomes, poll outcomes, statistical data, and so forth. They're about to cry as he's presenting the president's popularity, exceeding that of Ronald Reagan at this point in his term. And they're just freaking out over this. They like, how could that be? Well, because he's doing the work that the people want to get done, that he was elected to do. And like I said a couple of days ago, on multiple fronts. I mean, it's multitasking as opposed to the prior guy we had that put a lid on the press every day at 4 o'clock and then had to go find ice cream in a bed.
But no, Jim Acosta had no idea.
Unbelievable. So the other thing about this just lack of integrity and the disingenuous nature of Democrats and their talking points and their grandstanding. You've seen the video of this Mamdani guy eating rice out of a bowl with his hands. Like trying to pretend he's poor and he's trying to like be like poor people. Hell, even in this country, poor people have utensils. Do they not?
Well, it's worse than that. He was trying to adopt a cultural norm
of eating rice out of a bowl with your hands.
Yeah,
that's a cultural norm
in the Middle East.
Oh, sure,
India.
In the Middle East and India, right? So, by sort of,
it's the same reason he did half his commercials in foreign languages.
I mean, what's the purpose of that?
Because he's running for mayor in New York City.
Does that mean that because of our wide open borders of the last several years, that the city is being overrun with people who come from those countries and cultures and they're voting?
In fairness, New York's been overrun with foreigners far longer than we've had quote-unquote open borders.
Well, true, but the foreigners had assimilated
to a certain extent until you get too many too quickly to assimilate. And that's how you wind up with non-assimilated cadres like Little Italy and Chinatown and Little Ireland and all these other places where instead of assimilating, you just insulate.
That's true. And we're seeing this virtually destroy England, France, even Germany is being overrun. They're finally waking up saying, yeah, I think they're having like a negative GDP right now. It's overwhelming their society. Used to be the great economic power of the EU. Not anymore. We're stepping aside for a break, coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
That matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York, these vagabond shoes.
I tell you what, the mayor of Boca Raton, he wasted no time recruiting capitalism-loving New Yorkers. Come on down to Boca. We got no income tax in the state of Florida. Very high-quality lifestyle. Great weather, beaches, low crime, all the above. He's right. I'd be doing it too. We need to be doing that in the state of Mississippi. Give us your freedom-loving conservative capitalists. And don't say they're not any. There are more in New York than there are in Mississippi just because it's a big population. I've dealt with a bunch of them in business. They think like we do. They're just, unfortunately, drowned out and overrun by a bunch of left-wing nuts. They're tired of it. certainly tired of paying the outrageous taxes, and now you got this fool who wants to increase or shift more of the burden of taxes to the city in the form of property taxes and even income taxes, because there is an income tax, as you know, in the city of New York. Now, he can't do this without the New York Assembly's approval and passing of legislation. But you've seen him say, you read it for us the other day, he wants to shift that burden to the white, suburban, more affluent neighborhoods. He's a racist on top of everything else. I hope you Democrats keep leaning into it. Have you seen any of them condemn him? I've seen some of the pundits say, yeah, it's probably a good thing for us. But I'm not seeing anybody in the Congress come out and say anything negative about this.
No, in fact, a lot of Democrats have come out in support of him.
Unbelievable. Just incredible. So, the Democrats, of course, are also busy promoting false narratives about the big, beautiful bill. So I just sent Rhino another clip. Here's our man, Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader again.
Leader Jeffries, I'm also looking deep into this bill at proposed cuts to SNAP. That's food assistance for people across the country, red states, blue states, white, black, Latino, you name it. $300 billion cuts proposed. What would be the impact of that?
Republicans are literally ripping food out of the mouths of children and seniors and veterans. About 20% of the households that have veterans living in them right now rely upon SNAP. And in addition to trying to jam this massive cut to health care down the throats of the American people, this would be the largest cut to nutritional assistance in the history of the United States of America. And so Republicans are really pushing an extreme agenda at this point in time, directed by Donald Trump. And unfortunately, what we've seen is that Republicans in the Congress continue to simply be a rubber stamp as opposed to standing up for the best interests of their constituents.
Unbelievable. That's just outright, patently false. Everything you just said. This fear-mongering narrative that they've perfected, they're literally ripping the food out of their mouths of babies and seniors and veterans. Horse hockey there. You should be ashamed of lying the way you are there. You're a member of the United States House. Along with that comes a responsibility to be honest. That's what Americans expect. You're lying. Now, with this dude, I'm not sure if he knows he's lying. That's part of the problem, is they just take the talking points from their staff. Here, go say this. Right? It tests well. Some crap like that. I get fired up about this because here's what I believe. The people who get elected to office like this guy, it's a privilege. It's an honor to be elected to serve in the United States House of Representatives or any elected office in this country. You've got to be responsible. You leverage your position in political power to promote narratives that stoke fear for personal gain because you won't tell the truth. The truth wouldn't be as politically expedient. You're obligated to be honest. They always give you the contextualized, compartmentalized version without expanding on the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. With respect to SNAP, the food stamps program, it's disingenuous to say that funding's being cut. It is expected that federal funds in the program will decline simply because of a couple of things. One is states are responsible to cover some of the administrative costs, not the benefits, the cost to administer the benefits. And what this bill says is, you know what? We're going to put more of that financial responsibility on you based on the amount of errors that occur. Now, that's in place now. They're simply shifting more responsibility to fund that to the states based on your poor performance in administering the program. And by that, what we mean is, wait, you paid money to people, you gave SNAP, you approved people that aren't eligible, right? That's what they mean by these errors they're making, which is happening every dang day. You know that. So, now Alaska and Hawaii got a carve-out, by the way. That's how they bought, one of the ways they bought Senator Murkowski from Alaska. One of the things they did. The other thing... She's got to go. But I agree. I'm not sure we can get anybody better in Alaska. Just like Collins in Maine.
A polar bear in a suit would be better.
I love it. So, that's one of the major changes. And the other major change in the SNAP program, which currently has work requirements already to receive SNAP benefits, you've got to work. Well, there's a change in that the current age limit is 54. This would boost it to 64. So between the age of 54 and 64, you got to work. And work's defined as 80 hours a month or seeking work. So we're not cutting benefits. We're just simply saying, hey, you got to work till you're 64. What's wrong with that? So Hakeem Jeffries is not telling the truth. He's not sharing the entire story. I just did. Now, there are exemptions, including parents with children under 14. But this new legislation says if your kids are over 14, you got to go out and work to get these benefits. What the hell is wrong with that? Nothing. That just seems perfectly reasonable.
The people working to pay the taxes to fund for their lifestyle are having to do the same thing, so...
And you know what else it exempt? And I'm reading from the bill. Medically certified as physically or mentally unfit for employment. Now, you and I both know, unfortunately, there are dishonest medical providers who will sign off on this crap. Oh, yeah, they can't work. Right? Does this not happen?
Oh, yeah. You just got to know the right people, and you can meet the doctor at the fast food joint little dining area, and he'll write you a script for whatever.
So... Right. So even though that's a reasonable exemption, the problem is it gets defrauded and abused, and we pay for it. So in a nutshell, those are the reforms to SNAP. You got to work till you're 64. The states have to cover more of the cost if they make a bunch of errors. And by the way, if your kids are over 14, sorry, you got to work. That's it. How the hell is that taking food out of the mouths of people? Something else that we need to point out is that certain legal immigrants in this country, which are currently eligible for SNAP, won't be. If you're an asylee, for example. Now, that doesn't include green card holders. If you got a green card, you're in this country working, you got a work visa, essentially, you're still eligible if your income meets the various tests. But if you're just here because of asylum, should American taxpayers be footing that bill? Because the problem is the asylum game has been rigged, improperly applied, and more importantly, it's like, okay, you're in, we'll get to you in 10 years. Here's your asylum pass. Go get on SNAP. Is that not happening today?
Yeah, here's all your free money. Here's your free phone. Here's all the free stuff. And since we're paying for all this, you can afford to travel back to the home country.
Absolutely.
Once or twice a year.
So I'm calling out the Democrats and Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of their party in the House. You guys are just lying about this. You're not being honest. I just explained to you the three major changes in the SNAP program. Now, I didn't make this up. I got this out of the bill. And I've read, I know you have too, you can go find a dozen articles like that that'll all say the same thing. I'm talking about from reputable news sources, both on the left and right. And that's being defined, construed, promoted as taking food. We're coming right back.
Everybody's doing the mess around.
At Fillmore Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
Evelyn Champagne King. Shame. 1978. So last night in my regular appointed walk with our Black Lab Knight, always got the headphones on, the music. Usually I'm listening to the house band set list because I'm still practicing the licks. I'm air drumming while I'm walking. And this one came up, that tune. And I remembered it from my college days, but more importantly, from the old disco days. So I have to admit, my wife and I, Julie, who were dating at the time, 1978, we were actually pretty good on the old dance floor. And we frequented the discos in Memphis. Anybody remembers Flanagan's? In 2001, downtown, and there was one, gosh, I can't remember, in the big building on Poplar. I can't remember the name of it. But always a bunch of fun, and Memphis was kind of a rockin' disco town back in those days. That's when it was popular, of course. But I have to say, Rhino, I had the super skin-tight disco clothes, the polyester pants with the bell bottoms at the bottom. They had to be at the bottom big enough to fully cover my 4-inch stacks. Had to have that. And then the silk tight shirt with the bell sleeves on it. Had to have that. Julie, of course, wore the dance-friendly dresses that would swirl, come up, flatten out when you're spinning, and the open-toe, high-heel shoes. We had a lot of fun back in those days. But that came up,
it's funny
and
how
it made me think of it.
Some generations make good fashion choices when they're young, and others don't.
Okay.
I'm wearing pretty much the same exact outfit I would have been wearing in college. Nothing's really changed, but I don't think this far removed from college, in your situation, you were still wearing the polyester suits with the bell bottoms.
Negative. Don't do that anymore. But nobody thought anything of it then. You weren't cool, right? Unless you showed up at the disco with your appropriate clothing to hit the floor with the mirror balls and the spinning lights. It was a lot of fun. Man, that Flanagan's in Memphis, I can't remember the name of the street. There's probably some people that remember. So you go 55, 240 towards the east there.
Someone from 662 said 616 Union Avenue.
No, I think that's downtown. This was, and there may have been one there, but the one I'm talking about was gigantic, and it was south and east. Like as you're headed towards Germantown, Collierville area on 240. I can't remember the big main street there. Maybe it's Mount Moriah or something like that. You take a right on, go a little bit further south. But, man, that place was rocking. It was something. It had a great sound system in its day for 1978, for sure. A lot of fun. So just looking at more of these nutcases that want to cancel the 4th of July. Do you have this little clip I just sent you? Hear what they say about it. Really crazy. Dane Bramage talking about on the C Spire text line, the one I was describing earlier with the get-up, the hair, the earrings, the glasses. You just know she's a left. Here we go.
4th of July is canceled. I don't know what we would be celebrating freedom where.
Don't buy any freaking fireworks. Don't be popping fireworks because there's nothing to celebrate at all.
Is there a way we can cancel 4th of July? Because the United States is not justice for all. You know what I mean?
4th of July should be canceled because we are not the land of the free.
4th of July is canceled.
Unbelievable. We're not the land of the free. No, you're right. We're shackled by irresponsible spending and taxes and regulations, if you want to put it that way. Still orders of magnitude more free, in my view, than other nations. Not even close. And I
wonder what the grand total sum of taxes paid by those individuals is.
That would be a zero. They're in what I call the recipient class. You see, we've evolved in this country into two classes: the producer, contributor class, and the recipient class. These people are card-carrying recipients. The problem we have, and the reason they're all melting down over the big, beautiful bill and some of the reforms in it, is because we've conditioned people in this country to rely and expect and feel entitled to the contributions of others. And that is exactly what this nut in New York wants to do, which is why I got the shirt on that says, "Get in, loser." We're seizing the means of production. It's time for Fox News and SuperTalk News. As Hour 1 is in the books of Middays. When we come back, it's Captain Criss Turnipseed in the next hour. Stay with us.
Of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays, and we are live in the Element Wealth studio on this
Hump Day.
It's our pleasure to welcome now Congressman Michael Guest. He represents Mississippi's 3rd District, calling in from Washington. What about it there, Congressman?
Good morning, Gerard. Happy 2nd of July.
That's exactly right. So, all right, I'm looking at the television in the studio right now. Looks like you guys might be ready to sit down and start voting, right? Tell us about the procedure on the big, beautiful bill here, the sequence of events.
That's right. So right now we've got Democrats coming up to the mic there on the House floor, many expressing statements of opposition to the bill. We expect probably within the next hour to have a rules vote.
Okay.
So that is the first step. Rules Committee met yesterday. They took up, as I understand, the Democrats filed 438 amendments to the reconciliation bill. Those amendments each were dealt with there in the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee found that those amendments offered by the Democrats were not in proper order, and so they also set forth the parameters as to how we'll debate the bill and whether amendments can be made on the floor. That is called the rule that will govern this process going forward. We expect to vote on the rules bill probably within the next hour. Again, the Democrats are trying to slow this down, do everything that they can to stop us from being able to get to the floor on this legislation. Once rules bill has passed, we will then begin debate on the legislation, and we could have a vote as early as this evening. I do know that there are several members of the Republican conference who are back and forth with the White House, people who have reservations about the bill, trying to get some assurances from the president that we can look at addressing those in other manners. We can only lose 3 votes on this. We know that last time that this bill, when we was over in the House originally before it went to the Senate and was amended, that it passed by a single vote. So it is extremely important that all Republicans are on the same page and that we all support this key piece of legislation that would codify the president's domestic agenda.
So, Congressman, the point about can only lose 3 because you got a margin of 8. Is everybody present? Because it was being reported yesterday by the Speaker, his concern about everybody being able to travel and get to Washington due to some potential weather delays in flights.
At this time, no, there was a procedural vote this morning to start this process. I will tell you that procedural vote, there were 8 Republicans who were not here.
Okay.
I'll tell you that I experienced some of that flight delay last night, Gerard.
Yeah.
It was delayed leaving out of Jackson because of storms. It was delayed arriving in Atlanta. Once we arrived in Atlanta, because of storms that had passed through there. They were having problems allowing people to deplane, so missed my connecting flight to Reagan, ended up getting diverted instead to Baltimore. From there, had to take an Uber back into D.C. So I arrived last night at 1:45 a.m. And I was one of the multitude of members who were trying to get back, who were having flight delays that were weather-based. And so I think the delay helps Republicans in the fact that we should be able to get those outstanding 8 members back at some point today so that they can vote on final passage.
Okay. Well, I assume this is obviously affecting the Democrats, too, that are traveling into Washington, so they're counting their heads as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if they tried to come in earlier. I know that earlier today in that procedural vote, there was only 1 Democrat absent and 8 Republicans. And so they were able to get their members here a little quicker than we were. But those members who were absent, who have not voted yet, I'm told that they are in the process of returning back. And they should. We should be back and be to full capacity at some point, either right after lunch or early afternoon. So I do anticipate that the whip team, that leadership, they'll know the members that are here. They'll know how members are going to vote, and they're working as we speak along with the White House to try to get anyone who has any concerns about this bill in a place where they can vote yes to support the legislation.
Okay. All right, so the latest report we're seeing, Congressman, is that there are some 12 Republicans who are still holdouts that would not vote in the affirmative for this legislation. What's your latest information there?
Yeah, I don't have an exact count. I have seen that number, Gerard. I don't have an exact count. I do know that some of the names that we're hearing of people that have concerns are groups that are heading to the White House. There's 2 main groups. One, people who have concerns over the spending. We in the House had done a good job in our initial version of making sure that we were offsetting tax cuts with spending cuts so that there would not be a huge increase to our national debt. And so we've got those individuals who are concerned about spending.
Okay.
And we also have individuals who are concerned about Medicaid and SNAP. And so, they don't call it the one big beautiful bill for nothing. I mean, this thing, as you know, has so many moving parts. There's SNAP, there's Medicaid, there's tax, there's border security, there's defense spending. The synopsis of the bill, which is what we're working off right now, the synopsis alone is over 100 pages. And so we're working right now off of the synopsis of the changes from what the House sent over to changes in the Senate. And so me and my team are poring over that as we speak. But there's a lot crammed into this bill. There's a lot of things for people to like. And then there's other things in there that people are going to have concerns about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I suspect that the president, the latest I heard, he doesn't have anything scheduled today, that he's making calls. He's whipping. He's kind of the chief whip at this point.
He is. And so, again, not only is he on the phone calling people, but he's bringing people to the White House. He's going to listen to their concerns, try to find ways in which he can address those concerns. Again, either maybe through future legislation, maybe through executive orders, things of that nature. And so you're right. Whatever that number is, whether that number be 6, 8, 10, 12 or more, the president is going to work to get as many of those individuals to yes as he can in hopes that this bill can pass either later today or more likely sometime tomorrow. And then we'll be able to meet that July 4th deadline that we've all been working toward.
Yeah, and Representative Chip Roy and Andy Harris, I've seen some interviews with them the last couple of days after the Senate bill, or after it passed in the Senate, both saying that they thought it was going to take more than a couple of days to work through the differences here.
Well, I'll let them tell that to the president. And so, that's easy to tell a reporter on the phone. It's a little more difficult when you're talking to the commander-in-chief and telling the commander-in-chief that you're not going to support the key piece of legislation that encompasses his whole domestic agenda.
Yeah.
And so those individuals that you referred to, have often said that they were not going to support legislation later to come around after they had been contacted by the White House. So we'll wait and see.
Okay.
And I like both those individuals that you spoke of. I have nothing against either one of them. I consider them friends. They're great conservative members. But again, it's easy to tell someone that on television or on the radio. It's a little more difficult to tell the president that face to face.
Absolutely. So we've been talking this morning, I'm not sure if you were able to hear us any, but about Democrats in particular. Hakeem Jeffries, one of your colleagues there in the House, a leader of the minority party, the Democrats there, kind of carrying the water, carrying the message for Democrats in opposition to this legislation. But they always sort of tell part of the story, not the entire story. And the fear-mongering, literally this messaging that, hey, this bill is going to take food out of the mouths of babies and seniors and veterans, is just untrue.
You're exactly right. And that was the message. Republicans often get any time that we want to reduce the growth rate of spending. They often accuse Republicans of wanting to push grandma off the cliff. If you remember those ads when Republicans were trying to make changes to Obamacare. And so the things that they're fear-mongering about first would be changes to the SNAP program, which is the food assistance program, and trying to require states that have a certain error rate, so where we see that states are giving out food to people who do not qualify. The Senate bill says if you have an error rate of above 6%, that then the states are going to be responsible for somewhere between 5% and I think it ultimately goes up to 15%.
Congressman, we got a break. Sorry to interrupt. We got a break. Can you hang? You got to get back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're good right now.
Okay.
So would love to come back and talk to you.
We'll be right back. Thanks.
At Key Constructors,
the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
We're rolling. Hit it. Go. Play it.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We've got Congressman Michael Guest of Mississippi's 3rd District on the line from Washington. The U.S. House about to start voting through the procedural process on the big, beautiful bill, which passed the United States Senate yesterday. So, Congressman, lots of good stuff in this bill, which is consistent with the president's campaign promises and his agenda. I think lots of good things in here for Mississippi.
Yeah, particularly, let's just look at the as it relates to the tax portion of the bill, Gerard. This locks in, the current tax rates and the current deductions that Mississippians enjoy today. We know that those tax rates and tax rates went down, deductions went up under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that President Trump signed when he was in office during his first term. And so we are seeking to extend those, make those permanent. And so that would impact every individual who pays taxes that makes more than $12,000. And so we will be locking in the lower tax rates. We'll also be locking in the higher deduction. We know that roughly 90% of all Americans take the standard deduction. If Congress doesn't act, the standard deduction would be cut in half. It also locks in and increases the child tax credit, which many Mississippians have the ability to take advantage of. There are business taxes dealing with research and development, dealing with depreciation, things which I believe will help drive the economy. I believe that, and I've heard you talk many times, that businesses, they want certainty. They want to know what they're going to be paying in taxes. And so us being able to lock in the tax rates going forward, the tax benefits, the tax depreciations, that along with the trade deals, and I believe when we'll ultimately see interest rates begin to ease back down, I think you're going to see hopefully some amazing growth in our economy. We know that our stock markets have bounced back from the dip that they took when President Trump announced that he was going to be imposing tariffs. We see tariff deals have rolled back. We're starting to see trade agreements being entered. I think the president announced today one with Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure did.
My hope is that once this legislation is passed, once we lock in those tax rates, those tax benefits, once we see those trade deals come to fruition, it is going to drive the economy and that all Americans are going to be lifted up. As John F. Kennedy said, a rising tide floats all boats. And so that's what I believe that this legislation will help accomplish.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's still some concerns that Congressman being expressed by not only members of Congress, but certainly lots of policy organizations and analysts who really track the federal government's budget. There's concerns that we're still on pace to continue to produce significant deficits, and I think that's evidenced by the fact that the bill includes an increase in the debt ceiling of $5 trillion, and it looks like we're going to run out of money here within the next month to 6 weeks where we're going to need to increase the debt ceiling.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, you're looking at $35, $36 trillion in national debt. We know that we currently pay more to service our national debt than we spend annually on funding the military.
Yeah.
And so, but I will tell you, Gerard, and I know you know this, but I'll tell your listeners that much of the spending is mandatory spending versus discretionary spending. And so if you look at the spending of the federal government, 75 cents out of every dollar is mandatory spending. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, debt service, and only 25% of spending is actually controlled by Congress. Of the 25% controlled by Congress, half of that is spent on defense. And I believe that most people would say in a time in which we see war in Europe, fighting in the Middle East, and growing unrest in the Indo-Pacific, that it is probably not a good time for us to cut our military spending. And so we do have spending concerns. I will tell you again that much of that is driven by mandatory spending versus discretionary. We actually cut discretionary spending in FY25 by $7 billion. And so if you look, probably the first time in a long time where we actually cut discretionary spending versus when the Democrats were in control, we would regularly increase discretionary spending. And that's part of the concern that some of the conservatives have with this legislation, that the legislation that we receive from the Senate does not have some of the same debt control that Republicans had put in place based on the legislation that we sent over. But I'll tell you, in looking at the legislation, I believe that overall the legislation is good for the country. I intend to support that. And I hope that we're able to get this bill to the president's desk by July 4th for him to be able to have that signing ceremony in the White House.
And you absolutely described it 100% correct about the mandatory spending accounting for, and plus debt accounting for about 75% of total outlays. And really, I like to describe it as being on autopilot, that the Congress doesn't touch it, that because it's already established in statute, it just continues. However, when you guys do pass budget or bills through the budget reconciliation process, such as the big, beautiful bill, you don't deal with any reforms, any changes, any appropriations, any adjustments to the discretionary side of the ledger, only the mandatory, which is why there's some reforms to Medicaid, SNAP in here, a little bit to Medicare as well. Without 60 votes in the Senate, though, Congressman, might we see some reforms to those mandatory programs which are driving these deficits?
There's been talk about maybe impaneling or asking leadership on both sides to impanel maybe a blue ribbon commission to look at possible suggestions for Congress to consider either the end of this Congress or maybe the beginning of next Congress.
Yeah.
And so, we know that the Social Security Trust Fund is set to run out in the next several years. That will require additional outlays from the general fund to cover that shortfall.
Yep.
We know too, as it relates to Social Security, that we have more people drawing Social Security, people are living longer, and we have less people actually in the workforce supporting those people currently in that program.
Yeah.
And so those are programs we want to find ways to protect. I don't want anybody out there thinking that Congress is about to come in and do a massive overhaul of Social Security, that we're going to cut benefits or we're going to raise retirement rates. But I will tell you that it is something that we need to begin looking at now as to what we can do to protect those programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, for future generations. I hope, I'm a decade away from being able to start drawing my retirement, my Social Security that I've paid in for, all these many years of working. And I want to make sure that it's there. I want to protect it for my parents. I want to protect it for me and my spouse. And I hope to be able to protect it for my children, so that we can all enjoy the returns of the money that we have paid in overall our many years of our professional lives.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of reminds of the old Simpson Bowles or Bowles-Simpson, depending on how you want to describe it. The National Commission on Fiscal Responsibility and Reform, I think is what it was called. And that was back in 2010, and they did, in fact, identify and publish a number of suggested reforms, most of which weren't really acted upon, but I really think the Congress has got to do something, got to start acting. As you know, you saw recent reports from the trustees of Social Security and Medicare said we're not going to be able to make full benefits by 2033.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And even with the growth in the economy that we expect to see and the increase in tax revenue, it's still not going to be enough to cover the deficit because, again, you've got the Social Security Trust Fund running out at some point in the early 2030s. You've got the Highway Trust Fund running out, the Medicaid Trust Fund. So these trust funds that we have established or that Congress has established over the years to help offset some of the costs, those trust funds will all three be quickly running out of money in the next decade.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've got to look at prioritizing.
All right. Well, we always appreciate you joining us and giving us an update right there from the heart of the federal government's power, the United States Capitol. And hopefully today we'll get through these votes and get a big, beautiful bill to the president's desk by July 4th. Thanks a lot, Congressman.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks, Gerard.
We're stepping aside for a break. When we come back, it's Captain Criss Turnipseed from the Mississippi Highway Patrol.
West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home. Country roads, take me home. Country roads.
Is everybody ready?
I'm ready. Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well Studio. We're pleased to welcome now Captain Criss Turnipseed. He's the director of the Mississippi Highway Patrol Public Affairs Division. Hey, Captain, good to see you. You're not on the road today.
Not today. In the building, in the office this morning.
I got you.
Not on the road today, though. So I'd rather be out there on the road. So got to do some things around here. So
well, I say that for our audience. Often when you and I visit, you've pulled over on the side of the road. I can tell you're you're in your vehicle there, and you're out being a highway patrolman, a state trooper. So,
well, office work is necessary evil. Sometimes you got to do it too. So
sure. Of course,
might as well give y'all all the scenery that I get to encounter.
Yes, sir. All right, so we got the big July 4th weekend upon us. Gets cranked up, and of course, this is one of those circumstances where it falls on a Friday, which makes for an elongated weekend. And it seems to me, Captain, just around town, that a lot of folks are already out of town. The roads seem to be a little less congested than they typically are, and kind of the restaurants and the stores and so forth. I think a lot of people have already gotten out of town, but you're expecting still a good bit of travel coming up this weekend, right?
Well, always on these holiday weekends. There's so many people have gotten trips planned and places to go, places to be. I hear a lot of folks going to the beach. Which I don't know that I would do the beach on July the 4th unless you like waiting 2 or 3 hours on everything and going out to eat and stuff. But hey, some people want to do that. More power to them.
Yeah.
We're expecting a big crowd. Hopefully, this rain will be a little out for a little while. We're getting almost rain every day, so that kind of spoils outdoor activities as well. But we're expecting some travel. We're starting our travel period the 3rd. We're going to start at midnight and run it through midnight on Sunday.
Okay.
So those are going to be the days that we're really focusing on. We kind of track the numbers. As far as we go, it won't be a very long travel period, but we expect it to be intense, and we expect to get out there and work hard and make sure we keep everybody safe for this Independence Day holiday travel period. That's always the goal here at Mississippi Highway Patrol.
So when we talk about the weekend enforcement period, what exactly does that mean for our motorists?
Well, it's just a time we kind of track. We always just tracking the numbers, how many accidents we have, hopefully minimizing fatalities, citations that are written. We can usually tell a lot about the how much traffic's out there by just looking at the numbers and how well people are behaving. We kind of look at it and compare it to numbers of years past to kind of see where we are and what we need to do and what we need to improve on. A lot of these things we try to go out and do, but the ultimate decision comes down to that person that's behind the wheel. Holiday periods are times we look at stuff, but your travel habits need to be the same year round. You don't need to wait till a holiday period before you decide to make safe decisions behind the wheel. I mean, we do that 365, 24/7 every day of the year as far as trying to keep people be safe driving. But it's just something we've always done. It's just monitored. We always designate a weekend there for a travel period and really ramp up and focus our enforcement efforts. We have some overtime details. We can get more troopers on the road just because we anticipate the increase in traffic, and we try to meet those needs with a little bit more manpower. So that's really what we're focused on. It's just the safety is the mission. Safety is our goal, and we try to use the resources we have to make that happen.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and we appreciate that for sure. Are there any road closures, any of the main thoroughfares that we use to travel longer distances between states and across the state that we need to be aware of?
No, nothing that has been brought to my attention. Nothing I'm aware of. I mean, you've got some of the places where traffic is narrowed down to one lane because of construction and stuff like that. Just normal stuff you've probably seen going to work or going out on your daily travels. Nothing that's going to pop up that you're not already expecting. But you see them cones, you see those signs that say merge, get over. Don't wait till you get up to the cones before you merge. Go ahead and make that happen, because that's usually what causes delay in traffic. Is everybody wants to get as close as they can up there before they decide to jump in, and they're depending on somebody to let them in, and that usually will stop traffic. Down there on 59 around Hattiesburg, it was a big thing for a long time where they had some of that traffic lanes shut down, and that was a mess for a while. But they've got some of that opened back up now. It's a little bit more driver friendly now, but just things like that. Just be watchful. No road closures though.
Okay.
Hopefully, we can avoid that this weekend.
on kind of a different subject, Captain, are there any new laws that went into effect that we should know about that affect the highway patrol and the motoring public in Mississippi?
Nothing. I did some research and looked at that. Nothing that really pertains to us or traffic.
Okay.
I looked through the things. There were some interesting things on there. Some stuff I'm not really going to mention, but I noticed there was a law about fireworks.
Yeah.
You can sell fireworks a little bit for extended time now.
Yeah.
Some laws about some vaping stuff. And there's a few things on there, but nothing really directly pertaining to public safety from our purview. So everything looks like it's pretty much the same. There were some bills that were proposed, but nothing made it into law that's going to affect what we do on a daily basis.
Impersonating a police officer, I think, has now been deemed a felony.
I saw that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was a little surprised to know that it wasn't a felony before we passed this law. I mean, that seems pretty egregious to me.
Yeah, I did see that. And that might, we don't have a whole lot of people dressing up like law enforcement. At least nothing that we deal with.
Yeah.
That does kind of delve over into the law enforcement sector, but that's not been something we've been tracking out there on our travel habits and the things that we do. But definitely don't be dressing up. I guess you can't dress like one for Halloween either.
I guess
how that pertains. I don't know if that was addressed or not.
I saw my friend Major Johnny Paulus down on the coast about a month or so ago. How's that organization doing that he's part of? You got any update on that?
It does really good. I think it's been a good resource. The 1034 project, a lot of troopers using it, and it's probably something that should have been around for forever.
Yeah.
But in the recent years, there's just been a lot more focus and attention to mental health and the things that in our line of work, the troopers deal with, that we see, that we encounter, that can really have an effect on your mental health and your personal health as well. We see a lot of situations, a lot of things that human beings aren't supposed to see, and you take that home, and that has an effect on your private life, your family, and stuff. And that's helpful to have somewhere to go, have that help available to go talk those issues out. And it's a really, really, really good idea, and I think it's doing really well. There's a lot of guys and gals that are utilizing it, and I think it was something that happened that was well overdue, and I commend them for it, and a service that was really needed. So it's doing great.
How are we doing as far as recruiting and graduating new state troopers?
Well, we are in the process right now. I got some news on that, but I want to make sure everything goes through. But we're about to start the process for the hiring process for the next patrol school here. Could be early as this week. Applications could start going out. They're just still nailing down a few details and making sure all I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But we're looking pretty good on numbers. We've kind of changed how we've done some things. Everything's a lot more, I won't say automated, but a lot more digital. We've kind of come into the 21st century finally. And a lot of that stuff's, a lot of what we're doing is available online. We have recruiters that they can access through just clicking on a link. They can talk to them about a career with the Highway Patrol. And I will say, in the last, not quite a year, in the last probably 10 months, we've made, over 600 contacts of people who are interested in becoming troopers. So that if we keep those numbers and add that to the folks that decide they're interested when the application goes out, we ought to be looking pretty good as far as a candidate pool for the next class. So, technology has really helped out on that, and then being able to do a school. The commissioner has been able to make sure we can have a school once a year, at least once a year. So that's been really helpful on getting people in the door and becoming troopers. So we're thankful for that, and we look forward to starting this next process that should be starting shortly. So stay tuned. If you're on social media, follow the Highway Patrol or on Facebook, Twitter, or on Instagram. So we'll make all those announcements there, and we'll also probably send out a statewide press release on that stuff too. And one more thing before we go.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of the cruiser competition. Best looking cruiser competition. We talk about that every year.
Yeah.
And we need votes. We're way behind right now in the votes. So last time I checked, we were like number 30. So if your listeners out there and watchers would go to our Facebook page and look at that our submission this year and click on that link down there, Mississippi could sure use your help. We're very competitive. These states are like it's better than football as far as being competitive against each other. We want those bragging rights. So
that's awesome.
On our Facebook page, it's there, the link to go vote for Mississippi.
I'm gonna go do it.
We got a very good looking submission this year.
I agree.
Well.
I'm going to go cast my vote right now. Captain Criss Turnipseed, Director of Mississippi Highway Patrol Public Affairs Division. Thanks for coming on, Captain. Have a great 4th.
As always, Gerard, I appreciate it, and hopefully we can get those seatbelt number usage up this year.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Poly up of Mississippi.
It's so awesome! Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Come on, let's get on with the show!
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate the Capt Turnipseed from the Mississippi Highway Patrol, and of course, all the fabulous men and women that wear the uniform of the Mississippi Highway Patrol and keep our roadways safe and serve our state in that regard. Be safe out there traveling this weekend for sure, folks. It's important. We want you back with us and to be here. So, Ben, on the C Spire text line, we were talking about the reforms to SNAP and how the Democrats are really, dare I say it, Ryan, I'm just lying about it, honestly. Nobody's taking the food out of the mouth of anybody here. We're simply saying to qualify for these benefits, which, by the way, they too are a privilege. They're not, and I know people misuse this word a lot. You know this as well, Ryan. They're not entitlements. Entitlements.
That was an intentional misuse so that people would misunderstand.
I think that's right. Social Security and Medicare are entitlements because you're entitled to them. These are not entitlements. This is welfare. You're not entitled to this. This is out of the charity, the altruism, you could call it the compassion, perhaps. These are safety nets created by the federal government that take the resources and the contributions of one group of people, ram it through the bureaucracy that is grossly inefficient, known as the federal government, and then send it out the door in the form of these other assistance programs and benefits. You're not entitled to them. They exist because we elected people that created these programs. This is literal, quite blatant redistribution. You're not entitled, but we've built a society. That's the problem. People are so conditioned to, they're so accustomed to, wait, I'm entitled to that. I'm entitled to free food. I'm entitled to free health care and free housing and free education. Free. No, you're not. You're entitled to liberty, to the pursuit of happiness. It's right there in the documents that were used to create this country. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, the thing that Joe Biden could never recite. It's so trivial, right, according to Democrats. Oh, you know the thing. Oh, my gosh. So you're not entitled to it. Ben from Madison says, I'd like to see Mississippi follow Arkansas's lead and ban unhealthy junk food and beverages for people using SNAP benefits. You know, I think it was Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken, was the first state that reformed their SNAP program, restricting certain drinks, soda, and energy drinks if they had a high sugar content, something to that effect. Texas also, certain sodas and candy are not eligible for purchase with SNAP. It is true Arkansas recently passed legislation. Yeah, I agree, Ben. I'd like to see the state of Mississippi put those restrictions in as well on our SNAP program. You're not entitled to that. This idea, honestly, this concept that you're entitled to anything above what was originally drafted and used to found this nation, to form it, is just untrue. And it honestly, it distorts, it manipulates the truth, the facts, reality. But again, we have just continued to layer on benefit after benefit after benefit. And have you ever heard anybody thank the people who pay for it? Like, the Democrats should be, rather than blasting the more affluent in this country and smearing them, tarring them, they should be thanking them, because without their contributions, there are no programs. It's like this fool in New York who says there shouldn't be any billionaires. Dude, without billionaires, there ain't no New York. You want to turn it into a socialist wasteland, as do many other Democrats in this country. They should be thanking these people. These people power the country. Now the top 1% account for 46% of the total taxes. We're literally relying on a handful of people in this country to fund all this stuff. A small number. The contributors are grossly outnumbered by the recipients. And the Democrats will argue, well, the deck's stacked against them. They just can't get any breaks. They don't have the same access to opportunities. Horse hockey. We're stepping aside for Fox News and SuperTalk News. We got another hour of middays remaining. Stay with us.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays. We are live in the Element Wealth studio on this
Hump Day.
So we got a lot of stuff coming in on the C Spire text line. But first, don't forget we're in the Element Wealth studio. Are you thinking about or planning for retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. So, lots of stuff going on, certainly up there with the big, beautiful bill. The House is poised to hopefully get through the necessary votes today, get it to the president's desk. And the speaker says he is going to be rallying the GOP on the mega bill, they're calling it, the mega bill updates. David on the res on the C Spire text line, by the way, that's 601-879-4395, says, heck, I'm out here working at 73, and that was in response to the reform with the SNAP program that would simply, it currently requires people to work if they're under the age of 54, and there's some other exceptions. If you're a caretaker, if you're disabled, where you're not required to work to qualify for food stamps. But the big, beautiful bill would simply increase the cutoff age to 64. And David says, I'm still working at 73. I hear you, David. Me too. I'm over 64. I'm still working right here. So that's just not unreasonable, is it, to get free food, essentially, to get federal assistance to buy food, work till you're 64? I mean, I could understand that maybe 70, 80 years ago when people were certainly on the downside. I mean, they're already on the downside even today, but far further into it back in those decades than they are today, with the average life expectancy increasing dramatically. A lot of people still work till they're 64. I mean, and by the way, shouldn't it be sort of consistent with Social Security? At a minimum, right?
One would think.
Yeah.
Government's not necessarily known for their consistency.
I know. Sam in Tupelo, did I hear correctly? Does the bill do away with tax on Social Security? It does not, Sam. What it does is increases the standard deduction for seniors whose income is below $75,000 or $150,000 individually or married filing joint, respectively. It just simply increases the standard deduction if you're over 65. By the way, that terms out at the end of 28. That's something to keep in mind. The stuff that got added with respect to taxes, individual taxes in particular, the allowing Social Security tips and overtime to be deducted above the line in computing your taxes, that expires at the end of 28 as well. So you got three major individual provisions. The additional standard deduction for those over 65, the deduction of tips, and there's a threshold on that, $12,500 for an individual, $25,000 a year. You can't make more than $160,000 a year. And then overtime. It's only the premium portion of overtime. So if you work and make time and a half for overtime pay, only that half portion, which is over and above your standard pay rate, is allowed to be deducted from your taxes. Now, the difference between a deduction and an exemption is that you still are paying Social Security and Medicare taxes. If it were totally exempt, you wouldn't be paying Social Security and Medicare taxes on those earnings. It's not. It's a deduction, meaning you still pay FICA and HI payroll taxes. You still pay that. You just don't pay federal income taxes. And again, with respect to overtime, only the premium portion. And by the way, all three of those provisions end at the end of 2028. That means another Congress and another president are going to have to take those up to keep them going, just like they are with the current present tax cuts, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017. Tim McGee says, Gerard, about the disco. Hey, it was part of the trend back then, Tim. Had a bunch of fun back then. He also says you won't see any of those Palestinian or Mexican flags around McGee for very long. Yeah, I think that would be met with some resistance, shall we say, in certain parts of the country. Now, I did check out that it turns out in Los Angeles that the mayor out there said she's about protecting Angelenos from ICE. Therefore, they have canceled a number of previously scheduled July 4th events because they're worried about ICE coming in and arresting people who are here illegally.
By the way, I believe it'll be Monday marks 7 months since the Palisades fire.
Okay, 7 months. What's going on there?
I don't think there's been any construction on anything
Unbelievable.
in the entire area.
Unbelievable.
But they were quick to get in front of the cameras and behind the podium and behind the mics to tell everyone how they'd slashed the bureaucratic red tape so that people could get back to their lives.
Yeah, you knew that was a joke. Give those cancel the 4th, folks. Well, one-way ticket to North Korea and check in with them in about a month to see if they're happy with their new country and how their freedom is working out for them, says Ray in Long Beach. I hear you, Ray. Not going to pass. Because libs stick together, it's not going to pass. Yeah, I'm not sure what we were talking about right at that point. Might be talking about the big, beautiful bill. Yeah, they're definitely not going to. Well, I think what I was asking the congressman about is, can we get some Democrats together to help and work with Republicans? And that's a problem within the Republican ranks as well, to implement some reforms to Social Security and Medicare, which have got to be addressed, or there's going to be a huge problem in a short 7 or 8 years. And you talk about some angry folks is when they find out, oh, by the way, your Social Security check's down 23%.
You want my prediction for when they'll actually hunker down and attempt to do something?
Sure.
If the shortfall is 8 years out, 7 years and 9.5 months.
I sort of was afraid you were going to say that. You talk about the ultimate kick the can down the road. And why do they do it? So they keep getting reelected. Because if they talk about doing anything significant to address this problem, immediately all hell breaks loose.
All the bleeding hearts with nothing better to do start gnashing their teeth and calling them all kinds of bad names.
It's so just as today we played the clips with Hakeem Jeffries, and there's a series of other Democrats as well about the big, beautiful bill. Just as they're saying, you're taking food out of the mouths of babies. Can you imagine what they'd say if Social Security benefits get cut? By the way, Liz Warren, how about a beer, hon? Liz Warren, out on Twitter, unbelievable. She posted just a little while ago, how many people will lose health care in your state under Trump's big, beautiful bill? And she lists all 50 states, Rhino, and the number of people who will lose health care.
According to her.
According to her. In Mississippi, she's got 153,000 written down. So,
didn't know we had that many illegals.
So, once again, this attitude that you're entitled to health insurance. Actually, it's beyond that. They believe you're entitled to health care, which is the work product of medical professionals. So you're entitled to their work? That's what they're saying, is it not? Am I missing something here?
Democrats have always been the party of slavery.
It's indentured servitude. Describe it otherwise. So would you say that anybody else that performs any other sort of work, of course, I don't want to suggest this to Democrats because the answer would probably be affirmative. So the agricultural worker out in the field, should we say, well, you're entitled to food? Therefore, you're entitled to their labor? Isn't that what they're saying?
Yeah.
And you could apply that to every occupation, every person who works. That's what they're saying. Because it's doctors and nurses and other medical professionals, they're basically asserting that everyone is entitled to their work product, not to pay for it. Oh, we're going to pay for it by dragging money out of all these other people over here because they've, unfortunately for them, been successful. And she literally lists the number of people. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday that's worth noting again is they're also including the fact that the Affordable Care Act exchanges, the subsidies in that program, revert to the Obama-era structure at the end of the year. So now they're saying Obamacare is not sufficient, and they're claiming that a lot of people are going to lose their coverage because they won't pay for their little part as a result. Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
If you're feeling anxious, check it out. Let's do this. The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's get on with it.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Okay, on the 662 on the C Spire text line, because we're off Friday, it's really Friday Eve. Don't confuse me any more than it already is, because we'll be all messed up tomorrow. You know that. Gerard, you mean I can retire at 64, not 67 on the 662? Oh, my gosh. This idea that you got to work to 64, which is one of the reforms to qualify for food stamps, I've just blown away that this is described as taking food out of the mouths of seniors. That's just horse hockey. Work has had me a little out of the loop, and I'm wondering if there's any new developments about PERS. There's really not, other than the bill that created a new tier this year, and that's it. It's a hybrid tier, defined contribution, defined benefit program. The legislature passed a budget without sending any money to PERS. That's really it. Still a problem, still got to be addressed. And I think that's one of the select committees, right? The Speaker created, Rhino, as I recall. There are 4. Is it one of those, the PERS committee? Seems like it. And the Speaker, we believe, is going to be on with us early next week. So you want to tune in for that and get his take on that, his thoughts about that. Let's see. Is she wrong about Mississippi's number? I talking about the Liz Warren's post at 173.
Considering 99% of the time when her lips are moving, she's lying. You got to at least take it with a grain of salt.
What the thing to keep in mind here is, you know this, all these are projections. And the CBO is the one doing the Congressional Budget Office, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. And it's a forecast. It's a projection. It's speculation. Now, they use lots of data and lots of modeling to make those estimates, but it's just that. Now, remember, they also put estimates in place before the first Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was passed of how that would have a significant decline in revenue. That didn't happen. In fact, quite the opposite. Revenue went up. So when they make these speculative estimates, they are just that. We got a chairman of the Federal Reserve. We had a secretary of the Treasury. We had a Council of Economic Advisors that all told us that inflation was transitory. How'd that work out? Not too well. By the way, Jay Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, have you seen this? It turns out he is going, or at least there's a call for him to be investigated by Bill Pulte. And Bill Pulte is the director of the Federal Housing, the FHFA. I can't remember what the whole acronym stands for, but it's the housing guy, essentially. And he's calling for an investigation for Powell for political bias and deceptive Senate testimony. Wow. That's enough to be, by the way, removed for cause instead of convenience, which is still sketchy as to whether or not the president could just remove the Fed chairman for convenience, meaning without cause. That's typically found in business contracts, including employment agreements. So he also says that his $2.5 billion in capitalizations of building renovation scandal stinks to high heaven, and he lied about these specifics before Congress. This is nothing short of malfeasance and is worthy of, quote, for cause, which means the president could terminating for cause without any repercussions and insert somebody in his place that I think is less politically biased and would be more qualified, more adept in the role. He needs to be investigated by Congress immediately, according to FHFA Director Bill Pulte. This is big news, Rhino. This just broke, by the way, this morning at about 2 hours ago. Just broke. I heard it on the way to the studio.
The first question he should be asked is, how do you justify lowering the interest rates before an election but not lowering them now?
No doubt. In an attempt to prop up the other candidate, shall we say. So this is, man, you got a pretty high-ranking person here in the FHFA who knows about this sort of stuff. Federal Housing Finance Agency. I think they're the ones that administer Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, those two programs. I mean, critical to the housing industry. And, of course, interest rates are a major factor in the activity in the housing industry. And that's why not only is the president imploring him to lower rates, this guy's saying, okay, if he won't act, he does a little research and says, you know what, he wasn't telling the truth there on the Hill. Right? That's essentially what he's alleging, and we need to conduct an investigation. So the point, though, to the question, is Warren wrong about the number who would lose health care? Again, I want to point out that more people likely will come off the rolls of the insured from not re-enrolling in the Obamacare exchanges than Medicaid, in my opinion. Now, I'm talking about citizens, right? So, by the way, the provision that would have punished states who do pay for and allow non-citizens on their Medicaid program, that didn't make the cut. That's not in there, just so you'll know. The watering down of the provider taxes, the restriction on the provider taxes, which are just revenue collected from medical providers to have more money available to the states to go bring down more federal money, that got watered down somewhat as well. But they're already saying, oh, yeah, that's going to cause people to lose their Medicaid. Well, you're making assumptions that the states won't figure something out. You know what I'm saying here, right?
Well, it also falls into the trap that loser liberals like to use, where they just lump all immigrants into one big pile instead of dividing them into legal and illegal immigrants.
And that in SNAP, that's important because we don't allow illegals or even legal immigrants to be in Medicaid. States can pay for it on their own. California, the biggest offender there. SNAP's different. Our SNAP program has always allowed legal immigrants. And what I mean by that, they're in here because of asylum or, I don't know, the long list of reasons you can be granted legal status but not be a citizen. But they qualify for SNAP. And this tightens that up somewhat. And it should. So don't you want to protect the benefits for the legitimate Americans that do need a temporary, I hope, safety net?
Well, that's the problem. They don't actually believe in legitimate Americans.
You're right about that.
They don't believe in sovereignty. They don't believe in borders.
Pardon me.
They just believe in bleeding heart, blowhard BS.
Pardon me. So, is the CBO supposed to be nonpartisan, says Larry and Mize? It is. It's supposed to use numbers and data and facts, Larry, to advise and provide input to the Congress when making decisions. And it absolutely is. Now, I do think for the most part it is, but I'm just going to tell you, you're still guessing. You're still projecting. You're still speculating. And there's some rules around the process that don't allow them to incorporate and consider certain factors that might otherwise change those numbers. And the Democrats are all mad because they say Republicans are using an accounting gimmick in scoring the bill, which the CBO does, that the parliamentarian in the Senate. I mean, this is how the process works. The parliamentarian uses to then determine whether or not it could pass with a simple majority. And I think what the Republicans did is legitimate. They're not going back to the Obama-era tax plan, tax structure, to determine the decreases in revenue they speculate from these cuts. They're using the current day plan to compare to the future. That makes sense to me. Why are we going backwards? And that's what the Democrats want them to do. But again, Liz Warren, the Democrats, all this complaining about people are going to lose their health care, they're talking about people currently enrolled in the ACA exchanges. There are 24 million, of which the vast majority, I think about 21, do get some sort of subsidies, some federal assistance to buy their health insurance. And all we're talking about doing is reverting it back to the way it was in 2017, 16. The original Obamacare. We're just going back to that, which they love. That's their crown jewel. Now, all of a sudden, that's not good enough. That's what happens. And you know this. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. You increase benefits like we did during COVID. This all comes from the COVID crap. And then Biden had to do that crap again with the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act. And anytime you boost benefits, it's just so dang hard to take them away. People are conditioned to it.
Because the Democrats will cry about it.
It's almost like that's the plan, isn't it? Because they try to use it for political expediency. See, the Republicans, they're taking away your health care. No, we're just asking you to go back to the way it was when Obama signed the bill. They won't tell you that, will they?
Nope.
It's the truth. Am I saying anything that's untrue here?
No.
Stepping aside for a break, half an hour of Middays remains.
I'm gonna make it time, oh Lord. Gonna get by with my friends.
Okay, is everybody ready?
I'm ready.
Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays, the Element Wealth Studio. Don't forget, next Thursday, the 13th Annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon is going to be held. We'll be there all day, and we're going to raise enough money to cut Rhino's hair and beard. That's our goal every year. There are children across Mississippi that need a loving home, and many times these children are caught in unimaginable circumstances, and that's why we need your help. You'll learn how Palmer Home for Children serves vulnerable children. It's a faith-based organization that doesn't take government money, so that's why we need your help. We want you to tune in and join us for the 13th Annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon. It's all happening on July 10th here on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Looking forward to being at the Palmer Home next Thursday. By the way, I did go out to Facebook at the request of Captain Criss Turnipseed. I did vote for the Mississippi Cruiser there, the Highway Patrol vehicle. And there's a link on their Facebook site, the Mississippi Highway Patrol, Department of Public Safety, to where you vote. I think it's a SurveyMonkey tool, if I'm not mistaken. And it's got photos of all the states of their vehicles. Ours is pretty dang cool looking, I'll have to agree. So voted for that, and I encourage you folks to do that as well. Help out the Mississippi Highway Patrol. Show your pride in the great state of Mississippi. By the way, when I was talking about my disco escapades back in the 70s. That's what we were all doing back then, guys. So I did receive a message from a friend who was in school at the same time I was. Says, I'll have to admit, I can confirm you were a pretty good dancer. Actually, my wife was very good. She kind of drugged me along, I think it's fair to say. But we used to have fun doing that. So on the C Spire text line, we got a message asking about, see if I can find it. It's a bill that they're concerned about because it would require, or I guess I should say, it would prohibit the requesting of a voter ID.
Yeah, that's a phishing scam.
It's that right, and so it's saying call your senator or whomever. So.
It says Senate Bill 1174 passed in all caps, making it illegal to demand identification for voters. Be heard now, call, and then it gives the number. Don't call that number.
Okay, so here's the clarification. There is a Senate Bill 1174. It did pass. It's California. It's
only
last year. Right. It happened last year. I remember us talking about it because we were like appalled. What? They're going to make it illegal even if a city, a county wants to require a photo ID? Can't do it? And I think there are like penalties if they attempt to do it or something crazy like that. So, yeah, you're right, though. Overall, that's a phishing scam. And here's the thing to think about, folks. If you're only seeing it through kind of secondary, tertiary sources, it ain't true. For the most part, it ain't true. If you're not seeing, that would be massive, major news that every network in America would be covering.
At the bare minimum, it would be easily Googleable.
That's right. So, yeah, don't fall for that kind of junk. No doubt about it. Let's see. Because of the way the occupation powers wrote the German basic law, they don't have a constitution. Ethnic Germans who were third or fourth generation Russians were automatically given German citizenship after reunification and also didn't assimilate. Big drug and human trafficking mafia to this day, says Philip in Walthall County. Wow. Interesting. So, let's see, what else we got on the C Spire text line. This is one that certainly caught our attention. By the way, it was Horn Lake Lions Club that asked about SB 1174. That is a Senate bill passed in California last year that would prohibit the use or the request and requirement to present an ID to vote, which, of course, is the law in the state of Mississippi and many other states as well. And if we could get 60 votes in the Senate, we could make it federal law. On the other hand, the Democrats had a bill, their HB1. So think about this, Rhino. The most important bill in law bill that they wanted to turn into law on the Democrat side was to federalize elections, which would ban voter ID, including right here in Mississippi, because the federal government would overrule state law. On the Republican side, it's making the tax cuts permanent. I mean, that's how the two parties think right there. Need you say anything else besides that?
Well, you just have to look at Trump versus Kamala. The only states Kamala won don't have voter ID.
That's true. So on the C Spire text line, we got this from the 662. Talking about us, I believe. The fellas that just got off at 11 a.m. are so typical of conservative white men. So, by the way, just so you know, the show's 10 to 1. So at the we were talking about this in the first hour, 10 to 11. I think that's what you heard. But the show continues for another 2 hours after that. Conservative white men. So we've been labeled. We've been stereotyped. We've been profiled. Isn't that something the Democrats and the liberals always gripe about in this country? I got it. Of course, they can't understand why some people want to cancel the Fourth. They're white men. They have zero experience.
I had to emphasize that.
Right. They have zero experience regarding persecution, discrimination, etc. They think that all.
I wouldn't say zero experience.
I can attest to being discriminated against because I'm white. This fool doesn't have a clue what the hell he's talking about.
Not in the slightest.
They have zero experience. They think that all immigrants are receiving free everything, vote illegally, and have no right to an opinion. Hey, remember free speech?
That's not
true.
Free speech.
Have we ever said that?
No. I mean,
Ever.
Jokingly.
Well, so what this person is asserting is that illegal people in this country are entitled to the rights granted to citizens of this country. Do you think when the founders drafted our Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, all of our founding documents, the preamble, which makes it clear why they did it, right? That was what the preamble was for. That's the thing that Joe Biden calls the thing he can't remember. Do you think they were referring to illegals? Not no, but hell no. They never envisioned that we would consider just opening the borders up wide. Did they? No way. No way did they think about that. Isn't what they were trying to escape to a great extent? I'm getting the heck out of the tyranny. I'm going to form a new country. And we're going to ensure that only people that abide by our laws and rules exist here. That if they don't, they're going to suffer consequences and you just don't enter at will. We're going to assert our sovereignty? Isn't that essential?
I'm more bothered by the bastardization of the free speech concept. Because the same free speech that allows illegals and legals to spout their nonsense about canceling the Fourth provides us the freedom to provide our opinion that they're dumber than a bag of hammers.
This person goes on to say, just typical Fox opinions. So
I don't watch Fox.
Why is it that every liberal in this country thinks that people like you and me and others that are listening to us that are on the right side of the aisle just consume Fox News and then
because Obama demonized Fox the entire time he was in office. Well, he's the Lord and Savior of the woke religion.
I got to tell you, I spend as much time, some days maybe more, consuming what would be described more as left-leaning liberal media outlets because I'm always curious and interested about their perspective. And I think you learn a lot about people with whom you disagree philosophically. And by learning about that, maybe we can have a more meaningful conversation. But this person doesn't choose to do that. Has already just written us off as just brain-dead imbeciles that just consume Fox News and then repeat it. You know what the truth is? The liberals in this country, they consume the crap from the likes of Hakeem Jeffries and Elizabeth Warren and the race lady who's no longer at MSNBC and CNN and all these other left-wing loons. They're the ones that parrot all that crap because it's all wrong. It's all wrong. I'm talking about like mathematically wrong.
Not a single critical thought in a liberal's head.
We are Americans, this person goes on to say. It's unfortunate that there isn't a counterpoint.
You skipped the part about it's hard listening to the lies and prejudice every day.
I see that now.
We're forcing them to listen.
And it's unfortunate there isn't a counterpoint host. Well, I got something to say about that. Knock yourself out. Go create your own show. Get your own statewide network, right? What's keeping you from doing that? Oh, that you can't get advertisers? That's how this thing works. That's what these people don't understand. We're not here, just for an altruistic reason. This is a for-profit business. And the revenue comes from advertisers. And the advertisers don't spend money with this company unless we're reaching people that want to hear the message, that respond and react to the advertising. Why do you got to explain this? Unbelievable. Lastly, here we go. We all love this country. To want equality and fairness isn't wrong. It's America. Sure, we agree with that. But their idea of equality and fairness is inequality. It's discrimination. It's shaking down. It's redistribution. Lastly, and there's a lot more, it's hilarious that they are angry at spending and such by liberals as the Republicans push through a bill that adds $5 trillion to the debt but also hurts many Americans. Many they no doubt know. Thanks for the opportunity to give feedback. I've been critical of that. Today,
it's another regurgitation of a talking point.
We're coming right back. Stay with us.
Runner's Dev Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Come on, let's get on with the show.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I think that's the live version of Wipeout by the Ventures. Of course, when I was learning to play the drums as a youngster, this is what you practiced to. You felt like you had made it if you could do a solo, the Wipeout drum solo there. So, share with the audience what you just told me about J.D. Vance and Powell.
Yeah, I guess we're on the same wavelength, the Vice President and I, because he came out and said, quote, I'd love to hear an argument for why Powell cut rates 50 points right before an election, but can't do it now with inflation lower.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree. It made no sense then. In fact, it fueled more inflation is what it did, which meant it just took us longer to kind of sift that out of our system. Well, Mike from Columbus says that's why we left Europe, drew up the Constitution, I think, to live with our rights and not to conform to others. Yeah, I totally agree. This idea that we should not assert and protect our sovereignty is lunacy, in my view. And that's exactly what's happened. And now we got all these people in here. Many of them are bad hombres. The president's talked about that quite a bit. I don't know if you saw the story from Kristi Noem, I believe, from Homeland Security, talking about an illegal that they had apprehended and were transporting. It turns out it's a cannibal and was eating themselves while in their custody, and they had to take them to get some medical help. Gina Mendenhall, they need to Google what will happen if you illegally enter any other country and see what they do. Hell, most of them would kill you. So true. So true. Marshall and Terry, remember in the Old West movies, American law enforcement never crossed the border respecting Mexico's sovereign borders. That's a good point. Do not allow anybody to violate our sovereign borders. Well, the good news there, the president has addressed that, and that's one of his major victories. He said he was going to do it, and all he really did was enforce the laws, despite the fact that the Democrats lied and said, we need more laws, more laws, more laws, and the Republicans are blocking the laws because the laws were bad. They were terrible. They didn't really close the borders. They didn't shut down the wave of illegals crossing. They did quite the opposite. Oh, well, we'll let so many in, and then maybe we'll think about giving it a rest for a while.
Because the census counts illegals. That's why California has that many votes.
No doubt about it. So,
but good luck convincing a liberal of that, because that takes way too many steps of thought to actually comprehend and understand.
Yep.
They just hear illegal and fly into a fit of rage. They're not illegal. They're undocumented.
No doubt. Great show today, Gerard and Rhino, says John from Hardeman County, Tennessee. So, this idea, by the way, that this equity versus equality, that we all seek equality, absolutely we do. But does that mean we should give preferential treatment to certain classes of people, certain categories of people? Because that's what they mean when they talk about equity. Oh, you and I are privileged white men, we don't need anything, but these people over here do because they don't have the same opportunity. I beg to differ. In fact, and Tim and McGee said something about it. He's experienced it before as well. You can talk to almost anybody in any business that's ever tried to win a contract, who's submitted proposals, bids, RFP responses to these Democrat-run cities, such as the city of Jackson, which has these preferential treatment policies and procurement. I know I've talked about this a lot, but it's still a huge problem. If you can figure it out, which ain't hard, and you meet the minority business enterprise requirements, dude, it's a license to get rich. It just is. Federal government does it. Many large corporations do it. You get discriminated against if you're a white male. The person that said that, oh, we have all the privilege is just parroting the left's talking points. They're totally wrong. And this idea that America's just not free and there's no opportunity. I shared the story the other day. Last year, 1,000 millionaires were minted per day in this country. Not only more than at any point in our history, that's 3.5 times more than China. You looked it up the other day with a population of, almost 4 or 5 times ours, right? And you know that's more than all in the EU put together. No doubt about it. So I don't want to hear that. Get off your butt and seize the opportunity, not the means of production, you damn communists. Plenty of opportunity. Get off your butt and take advantage of it. And don't tell me it's just not available to me. Hell, it's available in the palm of your hand. These powerful tools we have.
Yeah, there's no reason to be ignorant of reality when you have all the world's information at your beck and call.
Unbelievable.
Yet liberals live in la-la land and refuse to accept reality because it might hurt their feelings.
Gina Mendenhall points out, hell, even the mayor in Chicago said only blacks will get government contracts. That's racist. He's a Marxist as well. So think about it. We got a Marxist that's likely to be the mayor of America's largest city. We got clueless Karen Bass in Los Angeles that's canceling July 4th because ICE may actually go out and do their job. And then we got, I think, America's third largest city. If it's not, it's third or fourth, Chicago. It's also run by a dang Marxist. Something I want to point out before we get off the air today is that there is a provision in the bill, you hadn't heard a lot about this, that actually expands the tax credits for contributing private contributions to organizations that provide voucher scholarships, if you will, education accounts through the private means, not government, but a federal tax credit. If you contribute to that, then they administer that and dole that money out to help those who seek to change schools, using that money perhaps for a private education. The Parents Campaign, an anti-school choice organization in Mississippi, is encouraging people to call our senators and vote against the bill yesterday. They hate this. We're out of here today, back tomorrow. Stay safe, and God bless everyone.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.